Hi there, this is Chris from MoneyHub, and this is a video explaining our how to write a cover letter guide. So I've linked this guide down below, and if you have any comments to make, please leave them in the comments section because we're very responsive to those and we want to make sure our guides and our resources are as comprehensive and as useful as they possibly can be. So without further ado, I'm just going to say that cover letters, some people say they're not essential, some people say that they are. We believe that from all the research that we've done and the constant updates that we receive, that they are very much essential. And it is the first kind of check that's done on anyone who's making an application. And so if you don't have one, then that's automatically a red flag. And also that the CV is really, is one thing, but the cover letter conveys your actual interest in the job. And to maximize your employment chances and for getting an interview, you really need one that's persuasive and tailored and personable to, move forward in the application process. So we've written this comprehensive guide, which I'm just going to quickly summarize. I'm not going to go through it line by line. There's too much in there, and I risk missing out missing out things by doing that. But I want to say that we're focused on sort of 4 different areas. The content of it, the presentation, and then the final checks to make, and then a checklist just to make sure you've got some do's and some don'ts before you submit your cover letter with the rest of your application. And then we've also got some cover letter template ideas. So without further ado, I'll just comment here. The content here is really, really important. Who you're actually writing the cover letter to. So you've got to be personable about that here. It's very easy to just write dear sir / madam, but it's not that personable. It's not that tailored at all. And I think if you really want the best possible chance, you've got to find out who you're writing it to. So that's harder when you're dealing with a recruitment firm, but push them to find out so that you can make a best possible start. So then that's our view there. And then there's 6 steps to build the body of your cover letter. So the first step is to introduce yourself and sell your relevant experience. So you must know already what the job is, and so there's no need to repeat that. But you're really looking to, talk about your skills and really say that your background is perfect for the job, and why your professional, background is, suitable and totally relevant for what you're applying for. So we've done an example here for foodstuffs, but of course there's so many different jobs, so many different industries, so many things out there. That's just one example. But I'm going to say that we've done a good one, and then we've done a poor version one, because people can just send these. And of course we've received these ourselves. And I've been in, employment, divisions before where we've got these very lackluster applications and very poor and thinly enthusiastic, cover letters. So we just want to not have those. So that's why we're saying, please just start with a strong punch and then continue from there. So to expand on your description, you really need to talk about yourself and your current role and your skills and competencies, and then looking at some relevant qualifications. So you could say that, for example, in the foodstuffs example, that you've done, you're a sales rep in the West Coast, and then you were promoted. So it's kind of just building on what you've already done and some of your achievements, and then looking at, what they actually meant, these achievements. Can you measure them in money terms or some sort of percentage terms, or some sort of the number of team members that you were supervised or responsible for, things like that. So just grow it out, and, not in a bragging sense, not in a very long-winded sense, but a concise sense to just, a bit, so push the, case forward. Then refer to the CV. That's really important. So you don't want your cover letter to be a copy and paste and summary of a big word salad of your CV. And so you really want to just make references to that. But at the same time, it has to be lightly referenced. Don't whatever you do in your cover letter, please don't make criticisms of your current employer or problems in the workplace. That's a massive red flag. People don't want to know that because it seems problematic and it seems a risk to them. If this person's leaving because there's been a problem, that could mean they come into the workplace and become a problem. And whilst that isn't, always the case, people don't want to take the risks. So please just don't ever mention those things. I don't think it's good. It's a good way forward. And it's going to just create more questions. And then it may come up in the interview as to your current employment situation. If it's a competitor, people will just possibly book an interview just to hear that and just to know what's going on. And it's not helpful to what you're trying to do. So just avoid it altogether, and no one will ask on it. So it's just best avoided. Lastly, step 4 here is to tailor the application. So really read over the vacancy listing and make sure you understand exactly what they're looking for. And it's not a pre-prepared word dump. It's really just linking what your experience is back to, what they're looking for. So for example, if the position, and we've just put this here, if this position requires responsibility for advertising campaigns and supervising agencies, don't just regurgitate, I'm responsible for that, and work it into what you're actually writing, saying that you've been successful in it and what you've done, what products you've used, and then how you've worked with these teams to create better results. It's not just I do this, therefore I am. It's more like, okay, I do this and this is what's worked and this is why, and this is some of the measurements and there's some of the specific successes. So really it's about being brief, but being very, very direct with what you can offer. And that's always going to be, a strong case for anyone who's reading the cover letter. Second, and then moving on from there, the money question. So if people do ask what the, salary range is, or, if it's kind of, you have to express that, then be honest here and say the range that you're looking for. And that's probably the best than just saying a specific number, because often people find numbers confronting, but strangely enough, even in hiring. But, it's fine to put a range in there just to give some background. And then signing off, this is when you really just have to give your details and make you as accessible as possible in terms of contacting. And that, it's all very polite on the ending. And then if you do have any absences in your employment history, that's perfectly normal. And then you can explain those. And the best way to do that is in your cover letter. So where you've got maybe 2 years, 3 years gap, maybe you did a sabbatical, maybe you did some further education, but it's not so obvious that, within your CV. So just explain that. That's going to be much better than leaving it not answered and then doubt for the people reviewing the cover letter and the CV and your application altogether. So just be upfront with that, and you shouldn't have any issue. Now, with regards to the presentation, it's really important. We think it should be only one A4 page and should be a standard font, Times New Roman, for example, 12 points. So it's readable, but you don't need a magnifying glass. The spacing, everything should be justified, so it covers the page nicely, and that it just looks very, very clean. And leave 2-line spaces between the date and then the body of the cover letter. And, you can leave one space between the paragraphs. We've got some templates down below, so it's worth just having a look there. You can use bullet points. I think that's quite useful if you want to make it concise, but don't make it look like your CV just in another version, and make sure that you're writing concise paragraphs. That's really, really critical. No one wants to read a waffly cover letter. It's not going to get you very far. And make sure that the contact details are very, very clear. And, it's very, straightforward how they'll contact you. We've put this thing about the English name that's been asked by us. And it's very normal for people from overseas to want to use an English name, rightly or wrongly, that's up to them. and you can include that, in brackets, because of course, if you have an English name that you've adapted or chosen, then that's just the best way to present it. So we'll put that there if that's relevant to you. If it's not, don't worry. But we were asked this question a few times, so we've put some guidance together on that. And then the address of the recipient, and then you just want to make sure everything's clear, triple check all that. And then, if you can use an invisible table, you can Google how to use that, then it will make the formatting much more straightforward. And then signing off, yours sincerely, that's often very popular, and followed by your name and any documents, etc., etc. Presentation, so these are the final checks. You really want to be spell checking this. It's so important. Commonly confused words. I mean, look, that's our view that it's easy to make these mistakes. So just check that, it's all correct, and just go through every word, basically making sure it is right. You can use a free tool like Grammarly, which is worth signing up for, just to be able to run your CV and your cover letter or anything to do with a job application through it. It's a free and the trial version. The paid version has more checks, but the free version will get you quite far. And then if you're going to use the abbreviation, then, it's fine if you're using it from their speak that's in the job advert, but trying to otherwise avoid them altogether. People don't know what they are. If they don't know what they are, then it just creates questions, which just creates friction. So be as descriptive as possible with not using those, and it won't save you. It's not going to cost you any more words, maybe a couple more, but it's just going to be clearer. Capital letters, just make sure they're all in the right place and that the fonts are consistent, that you use an email address that's really quite professional rather than a nickname. It's something you could do your full name. So just consider that, and then read it out loud to make sure it has a clear and logical structure. A lot of people overread these things and they just keep reading them and keep reading them. It kind of loses it a bit. If you just read it out loud, then you're going to be fine. And then subject line, just make sure that your subject line, if you are sending this by email, is going to be completed. Sometimes we've received them not completed by accidentally sending or just missed out altogether. And if people are hiring, usually wanting attention to detail, so it's really important just to make sure those subject lines are complete and they're actually logical. File names, so you can save it as something like, the cover letter with your name on it, and then uploading everything. Make sure it's a PDF and make sure it looks exactly how you want it to. So you might have to print a PDF from Word or whatever word process, like whatever Word app you're using, a few times, but just make sure that it looks fine. And then emailing it, it's basically, there's two schools of thought here. Like you can not send the letter as an attachment, and you can also just paste it in. Sorry, it sounds a bit confusing, but you can either copy it in to the full email, or you can do it as attachment. Schools out on really what the best responses are here, but it's probably best to send it, if you are sort of dealing directly, send it as an email and then just include your CV as an attachment, because they'll file them accordingly. And then if you have an automatic email signature, make sure it's appropriate for business use. So if you've got something out of office-y, or if you've got something silly on it, I'm not sure, just make sure that anyone who gets an email back by replying gets something that is professional. So overall, those will help. And then we've just got some checklists, some do's and don'ts, which are really, really careful. So really, really kind of easy just to make everything succinct and everything the best possible state it can be before you send it in. So read the advert carefully for keywords, as I previously said. Make sure the cover letter is addressed to the right person. Be clear and concise. Have the structure. So read it out loud. Target your letter to the job, to the company, and use active words. So what you've done, what you've increased, what you've led, what you've achieved, those type of things. And then highlight, specific achievements and successes. And then don't so these are some don'ts. So don't forget to put in your full contact details. You need to be as accessible as possible for when people want to get back to you with an interview. And then don't forget to say what job you're applying for. Sometimes many companies are hiring many roles. Sorry, the same company is hiring many roles. So just be very specific about what job it is. Don't be dull, and don't fail to make your case, and don't be arrogant at the same time, but use the cover letter to really position yourself strongly. And don't just repeat what's on the CV. That's going to be a terrible experience for the person reviewing it and making the assessments. So no copy pasting, and then don't forget a call to action in your sign off. And then don't start every sentence with I. Try and mix it up a bit, and then don't go on for too long. And then don't forget your attachments. Of course, that's often done. It's very embarrassing because then you have to send it twice, and that is not fun. What we'd also suggest, if you are interested in using a tool like ChatGPT or Grammarly, sign up for those. The basic plans are free. Run your cover letter through it. Make sure that if it's going to suggest in a thing that it's set to, or that you make provisions for a New Zealand British English rather than the American standard that you'll get with some of those apps. So just be careful with that, because you don't want to use the wrong spelling for favorable, or the wrong spelling for something with a Z, which should be an S, maximize for example. So just be careful that it's very easy to use those, but make sure it's relevant to New Zealand spelling and standards. And then finally, we've got some templates there that are worth having a look at, but really you can scour the internet for that. We just wanted to put together something that's really, really comprehensive so that you cover all the basics, and then you can rework, cover letters as you need, but you've got the proper setup to be able to do it efficiently and structure and everything like that. So thanks very much. Best of luck for your job application. If you do have any comments or questions, as I said, please list them below. We are very responsive to making sure everything's comprehensive, and we want to improve our guides. So feel free to leave those, and we wish you the best of luck with your application.